Folks, today I'm going to talk about the family life versus the spiritual life, the so called spiritual life. Just because I've been talking all the time about God, spirituality, the relationship between you and God, etc., etc., it's quite possible some of you might be thinking that I don't give much importance to family life. On the contrary, I have published some videos about how to live in general, where it is a family setup or the life of a sannyasi or a monk. But I want to re-emphasize the relationship between family life and the spiritual life. That's why I thought that I will make this video. Having seen prominent figures like Ramana Maharishi and Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Jesus, you might think that family life is in general a hindrance to spiritual life, finding the relationship between you and God. Buddha, though he was married, he renounced family life and went in search of finding the reason for human suffering, and he intensified his search for the unknown one that everybody has been talking at that time, almost torturing his body, his health, etc. Of course, there are many instances like Prophet Muhammad led a family life. So, still, people may be thinking that family life in general is a hindrance to finding God or God realization or leading a happy life, etc., etc. The reason why many people think that family life is a hindrance to God realization or finding God or leading a good spiritual life is that they consider the relationship, there is a sexual relationship that a husband and wife has in a family life is a sin, is bad, something prohibited in religion, something unwanted. It's a way of wasting the sexual energy, which some yogis think should be conserved in order to realize God. That's not true. I'm a normal family man. My first spiritual experience happened when I was 31 years old. At the time I was married, as I told you before many times. I have a child, I have grandchildren, and I still lead a very normal human life, as I said. And also, people tend to think that if you lead a family life, have children, there's a possibility that you'll be spending most of your time solving problems related to family life, earning money, bringing up children, etc. etc. It is true that you have to spend more time tackling family related, raising the children, etc. That kind of problems, and you have to solve them, etc. I talked about how to manage the difficulties in normal family life and still strike a balance between making money, going after money, and finding time to think deeply about in general life, God, if there is anything like that, a relationship between the two, etc. I'll still keep talking about that because that's a very important topic in the minds of many people. This is the critical thing that you need to understand. If you dig deeply in the relationship between a husband and a wife, which for most of the people, at least in the early stage of marriage, is sex based. It's a sexual attraction. For some people, it remains as a sexual force even in the later life, even when they are 70, 60, and so on, though to a lesser extent. But if you understand deeply the attraction between a husband and wife, is at the basic level, at the most fundamental level, is love. Especially if most of women, what they expect from a husband is really the love. Though, even when they are engaged in the sexual activity, their mind always thinks whether my husband is loving me deeply or not, because basically, in general, women doesn't have much power, muscle power, compared to men. So they need protection. So the evolution has made them to attract men who has power so that they can get protection in life. So they seem to be attracting, seducing men. That is a evolutionary growth in women. But at the bottom level, what they need is love. Only when men think that women basically is an instrument or it's a something, some stuff for their sexual enjoyment, then they are looking at the surface level attraction between themselves and their wives. I'm sure many people, at least at the age of 50s and 40s and later, they will tend to think that there is something deeper than just sexual attraction between husband and wife. In a family life, there is a life behind the husband, there is a life behind the wife, the force of life, the energy of life I'm talking about. In sexual activity, at a fraction of a moment, for a fraction of a moment, these two life forces in men and women merge. I don't know whether people have realized that or not. At the time when they experience, whether it's a man or a woman, when they experience the climax, there is something which brings, something is manifesting, which brings the man and wife, the husband and wife together. But generally, people don't think that way. But the real basis, the real attraction underlying the sexual attraction is the force of uniting two lives together. It's the attraction between two lives. It is the same attraction that will unite whether you are a man or a wife, or if you are a man or a woman, with the so-called God, the unknown one. If you run away from family life, leaving the children and wife in the middle of your family life, go to an ashram or Himalayas or wherever, the forest, in search of God, the very fact that you have left your family in disarray, even when they have some good financial situation, they will still long for your company. So if you leave them and separate yourself from your family and go to an ashram in search of God, you will never find it. Because in your mind, there is always this thought that I have left my family, and that will be a huge hindrance in your search for God. That will prevent you to unite with the extraordinary energy called God. So, if you understand that the most fundamental energy attracting a man and a wife, attracting a life, whether you are a man or a woman, with attracting a woman or a man, towards God is this golden light, the love. It has tremendous power to attract. It is important to understand that unless you realize the presence of this extraordinary force of attracting your life with another life, including the life of children in family, the life of your disciples, if you are a monk. The basic energy attracting everybody is love, the golden light. And that is the one which will bring you to understand and unite with this extraordinary thing called unknown God. So the bottom line is family life is not a hindrance to spiritual life or finding God or God realization. Though in some religions it is said so. For example, in Christianity, generally people think that this attraction of a woman is a kind of a sin. Attraction of a woman towards a man or a man towards a woman is a kind of a sin that Adam and Eve committed. So they have to repent and worship Jesus to give salvation. There's a lot of misunderstanding underlying this idea. I'll talk about that in another video. So the basic force between every life, the attraction between every life is love. The love of the golden light. What in Hindu scriptures they call Lakshmi or Vishnu. In Christianity they call the Son of God, that Jesus exemplified, embodied. If you realize this, if you understand that is the basis, then you will never think that family life is a hindrance to spiritual life. In fact, that is the battleground in which you can really realize the extraordinary energy called love between you and your wife and children, or between you and your husband and children. That's what I want to talk to you folks. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. I will respond.